In Saga, Japan, people still remember one impossible detail. Women kept disappearing on Wednesdays, not once, not twice, again and again. And when police finally found 3 of them in the same mountain woods, the case seemed to become simple. There was a suspect. There was a confession. There was even physical evidence, or at least police said there was. But then the confession fell apart. The evidence was challenged. The suspect walked free. And the question became worse than the crime itself. Did Japan almost execute the wrong man? Or did the Wednesday Strangler escape in plain sight? This case begins in Saga Prefecture on Kyushu, far from the neon image of Japan most people imagine. The communities were small, the roads were familiar, families knew each other. And that is exactly why the disappearances were so frightening. The killer did not need a city to hide. He hid inside routine. The first case that still shadows this story happened in 1975. A 12-year-old girl named Tomiko Yamazaki vanished from her own home. Her mother came back late from work and found lights on, the television playing, and silence in the house. Tomiko's shoes were still at the entrance. Some of her clothing was left behind. There were no obvious signs of a break-in. Police considered the easy explanation first. Maybe she ran away. But her family never believed it. Years passed. Then more young women and girls were attacked in the region. By the early 1980s, the pattern was hard to ignore. Victims were being taken in rural areas. Some were found strangled. Witnesses described unknown men in white cars. Rumors moved faster than evidence. And the police, divided between local jurisdictions, never managed to turn the fear into a single clean investigation. Then, on July 8, 1987, the pattern returned in a way no one could dismiss. It was a Wednesday. 48-year-old Sumiko Fujita finished work in Takeo. She was a waitress, a mother, and the wife of a sick husband. That night, she met a colleague after work. They ate, sang karaoke, and talked for about an hour. Then Sumiko said she was going home. She never arrived. Around midnight, her husband began calling people who might have seen her. Then, despite his illness, he went out himself and searched the route she should have taken. Police learned she had stopped briefly at another restaurant. After that, the trail disappeared. No confirmed witness, no struggle, no body, just a woman erased from an ordinary night. More than a year later, another Wednesday came. December 7, 1988. 50-year-old Kiyomi Nakajima left home for volleyball practice. She was active in her community, and the sports center was close enough that nothing about the trip should have felt dangerous. But Kiyomi never reached the gym. Her family searched through the night. The next morning, police and neighbors were walking the quiet roads around her home. Then came the phone call. Kiyomi's husband answered. An unknown man said she had been found. When asked where, he used a local mountain name that outsiders would not normally know. When asked who he was, he replied, "Someone you know." Then he hung up. The voice used a regional dialect. The location mattered. The silence after the call mattered even more. If the caller was the killer, he was not just hiding the crime. He was inserting himself into the family's suffering. Then, 1 month later, the case became undeniable. January 25, 1989. Again, a Wednesday. 37-year-old Tatsuyo Yoshino was home with her family when the phone rang at 7:25 p.m. The call was short. After hanging up, Tatsuyo showered, changed clothes, and told her family she was going to help a friend with a flat tire. She left in her red car. The next morning, police found the car in a bowling alley parking lot. It was locked. Empty. Her belongings were still inside. Nothing about the scene looked loud, and that made it worse. A few days later, an elderly couple stopped near a mountain road to pick flowers for a Buddhist altar. From the roadside, the woman noticed something pale below a wooded slope. When she moved closer, she saw a body. Then another. Then another. Sumiko Fujita, Kiyomi Nakajima, Tatsuyo Yoshino. All 3 were in the same wooded area. Their clothing had been removed and hung from nearby branches. The bodies appeared to have been carried or staged. Autopsies pointed toward strangulation. Suddenly, the earlier disappearances were no longer isolated tragedies. They were part of a geography. Roads, parking lots, mountain paths, local names, and Wednesdays. The police needed a suspect fast. They found one in Teruo Matsui. Matsui knew Tatsuyo. Witnesses connected a suspicious vehicle to the night she vanished. Some accounts pointed toward a white car or van. Matsui was questioned, but he was released. Then he quit his job and moved away. To investigators, that looked like fear. To the defense later, it would look like police choosing a man and building a story around him. Months later, Matsui was arrested on unrelated charges. Police questioned him again. This time, they said he confessed. According to investigators, Matsui admitted he called Tatsuyo, met her, and killed her. He also gave explanations for Sumiko and Kiyomi. For a moment, the case had the shape every police department wants: a suspect, a motive, a confession, a public answer. But the answer did not hold. Matsui retracted the confession. He said it was false. He said he knew Tatsuyo, but did not kill her. He said he did not know the other victims. Without the confession, the case became dangerously thin. There was no clean forensic trail tying everything together. There were no perfect witnesses. The body site was difficult. The earlier cases were old. And the larger theory had a serious problem. If the same killer was responsible for crimes reaching back to 1975, Matsui would have been extremely young when the first victim disappeared. That did not make the theory impossible. But it made it unstable. The police still believed they had their man. The courts would not be so sure. More than a decade later, the case came back. In 2002, investigators reopened the file with newer forensic technology. They focused on old biological material connected to Tatsuyo's case. Prosecutors argued it linked Matsui to the crime. He was charged again, very close to the legal deadline. This should have been the final act. Instead, it became a trial about the investigation itself. The defense attacked the confession. They attacked the DNA. They argued the police had ignored evidence that pointed away from Matsui. They said investigators had taken one imperfect suspect and forced every loose fact to fit him. In 2005, the court acquitted him. The confession was not reliable enough. The evidence was not strong enough. Later, the acquittal was upheld. Matsui received compensation for the damage caused by the accusation, and the Wednesday Strangler case entered its most disturbing form. Because now there are only two possibilities. The first is that Matsui was guilty, and the justice system failed to prove it. If that is true, police lost the man they had been chasing for years. The second possibility is worse. Matsui was innocent. The confession was a product of pressure. The evidence was too weak. And while police focused on him, the real killer disappeared. That would mean the man who knew the roads, the mountains, the local names, and the victims' routines was never truly caught. The case also raises another possibility. Maybe there was never one single Wednesday Strangler. Some researchers believe the earlier crimes and the late 1980s murders may have involved different offenders. The pattern may have inspired a copycat. Or the killer may have stopped because the attention became too dangerous. Or he may have died, moved away, or simply grown old inside the same community that once feared him. What makes the case feel viral even decades later is not just the violence, it is the broken certainty. 3 women were found in the same woods. Their families were given a suspect. The public was given a confession. Then the court gave everything back to doubt. So the final image is not an arrest. It is a mountain road in Saga, a red car in a parking lot, a phone call from a man who says, "Someone you know," and a day of the week that should mean nothing: Wednesday. For the families, that word never became ordinary again.